it's honestly just enjoyment coffee now. It's like, I'm gonna drink this cup of decaf because I just am a masochist and like how it tastes. Like, just recreational coffee.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, on that, we should get started since we've got a lot of chatting to do and we're getting a late start. Yeah. Oh man, doing this all again. It's been almost 2 months. Hello, welcome to episode 50 of the Foam News Collective podcast. I'm KT. I'm here with Grim and Vile. What's up, y'all? 2 months almost off.
Yeah.
Off, and we're back now. How's it feel to be back?
Chaotic.
Yeah.
Little chaotic.
I feel like I forgot a couple things along the way somewhere, like getting used to the old habits again of like show production. I'd completely forgotten a couple of skills. I hadn't even realized the time had passed because I was just so busy with a bunch of like personal stuff. When I realized it had been almost 2 months, I was like, oh shoot, this was supposed to be like a 1 month break, not a 1.5 month break. Because I think what hit me is we got like a comment a couple of the other days, and it's like, so when's the next F&C video coming out?
Yeah. People
I had to remind them that we were already working on stuff. I was building things in the background, the spreadsheets, and that was interesting. Because when I was looking, I was like, this is actually quite a long break. I wonder when we're supposed to technically start. And I was just getting worried about it because I was like, this is going to be like 3 episodes crammed into one. It's looking like that. It feels like that.
It's a big one. One. I think we want to talk about this a little bit more, but I want to go ahead and introduce our guest so that he's not just awkwardly in the corner of the screen of all of our YouTube viewers.
Yeah.
Y'all, this is John Rockwell, who you may know, depending on... I'm realizing how many different names you go by, and I have to ask you about them because...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm starting to because, like, on Discord, you may know him as Lock747. Your screen name says SZBB, and I don't even know what that means. But John is head organizer, one of the head organizers. Of the Sub-Zero Blaster battle, right?
Yeah. So we don't really have formal names yet. Okay. Kind of like the ringleader, I guess you could say, if that's what you want to. Great. Ringleader.
Great. And we're going to talk about that in a whole bunch of detail. But we just have to get back into gear because I spent all of the last. We went on break as we usually do mid-December, and survived the holidays. And last year, I think we started at the end of January, but this year we all kind of had stuff going on through the whole month. I just finished a theater show that I didn't expect to be the lighting designer for, and then suddenly became the lighting designer at the beginning of January. And that was really intense, but a really, really wonderful experience. 2 high schools collaborating, and I was designing and teaching at the same time. Very great a production of Hadestown for musical theater people, teen edition. So that was really great, but it was very time-consuming and exhausting, so I didn't really have a break. And on top of that, I write a song every day in January on odd-numbered years. So I was like at the theater at like 10 o'clock as all the kids are going home, like writing a song down and recording it on my little ukulele, and then trying to get home and get to bed. So that was my whole experience. Vile, I know you had stuff going on too, aside from streaming, of course. But
yeah, I still was doing streams where I could. I actually I drove to see family in Texas for like the holidays. I drove back. Teacup, my wife, actually came home. For anybody who doesn't know, she's stationed overseas right now for the military, and she was here for about 3 weeks, and we never really had a break either. We were out of town. We had an impromptu like drive to Vegas, not to gamble as you would probably think, but to actually just pick up some display cases from IKEA.
Whatever happened just stays there. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, but like it was a lot of stuff. Like we were trying to just make the most of our time, obviously, while she was here. So that was a pretty big part of it. And then, again, still trying to like stream where I could. And obviously, if you notice, for those who don't know, I have my Merge Masters 2025 blaster build on the desk. But I also was kind of behind the scenes helping with at least the logo of that. If for anybody who doesn't know, I've helped Merge Masters last year and this year with that logo design. So, but yeah, that's kind of what's been going on with me. It's just, it was funny because when she got home, I was like, okay, well, maybe we could help to like get some stuff organized around the house, some things that I've been needing some help with. And none of that happened. And the house is more of a wreck now because I even cleaned the house, and it's more of a wreck now after she's gone than getting anything done. So now I'm like trying to like pick back up and like, okay, now I've got to get all this work done. So yeah, that's my thing. I'm building like storage for blasters and trying to make organize things better so that way the house isn't in such shambles almost. Yeah. So but yeah, that's what my time's been like.
No. Grim, you surviving?
We're surviving. Very snowy outside, very cold. Yes. I believe I read wind chill of like 0 degrees right now, but like, we surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where I'm at. I'm in Vermont. That's an average day right now. That's an average day. Although we've had a bunch of really warm days. What's it been like where you are, John? Because you're in New York.
Yeah, we're upstate New York, Finger Lakes. It's actually really interesting. The whole area around the lake is all snow and crazy and all of this, and we're like 36. So I'm praying for a snow day, and it's just not happening. And it's like, here's your inch of ice.
Yeah.
So in that way, yeah, it's northeast. I love it. I miss the bright outside. I miss hiking and all that good stuff, and obviously playing, but outside. But that's kind of life up here in the northeast.
Right.
We enjoy it while we have it.
So true. It's so true. Well, speaking of your life up in the northeast, I want to get our audience to get to know you a little bit better. One of the big things we always want to know is, how did you get started? How did you get started foam flinging? How did you get involved in this hobby?
Yeah, so this is everybody has their like, hey, I was a kid and my neighbor had this and I had that and we went out and played and that's all well and good. Fell off for a long while, just trying to be an adult, trying to be mature, whatever. And then finally in college, I was staying home and ended up going to university right by my house, and there was a Nerf club at Binghamton, Campus Survival Games, who Colin actually came through, and that's how I met Colin and a lot of those folks through that club.
Oh,
so, great. Joined up my freshman year, it was 2020, and that was the only social thing I was doing. So, ran to Target, bought a rival Roundhouse, a terrible blaster that is like the low point of that line, probably. Lovely jamming revolver. And so I launched into, that was all I was doing on like Saturday afternoons. I would go to work, I would work my part-time job, and then I would go play Nerf. And that was kind of the way it was for a while. And then I ended up getting into really the organizational part of it with, transferred schools and started a club up at the school that I had moved to. Shout out to my folks in Oswego out there. So my folks in Oswego, and that was the club that I started, and that really kind of catapulted me into that the hobbyscape and like the awareness of all of the things rather than just what was happening in my little pocket of the southern tier.
Were you doing organization for like casual games or competitive or HVZ or?
Yeah, so the first challenge was really we had to start the thing from the ground up, and that was the really hard part. So we were playing a lot of just casual PvP, so 110 FPS games out on the quad, just trying to get some eyes on what we were doing, get more people like us to, hey, grab a blaster out of the bin and come and play, for the afternoon. So that was really the first year, was just like organizing that groundswell, getting our processes, and then my second year we did a week-long game of like assassin tag. So spread 30 people throughout the campus. Everybody gets a like an index card. So it's like, hey, you have so-and-so's name. You're gonna go find that person throughout the day, grab their card that they have, and so on until you're down to just one. Which was a really fun, like, tense week. And permissible on a college campus, whereas like a week-long HVZ for a new club probably wouldn't be.
Right. It's a big ask.
Yeah. And then we did do an invite for HVZ, which was great. I mean, we traveled so much and played in so many different games that it was like, we're going to have an invite, and it was fantastic.
It's cool.
So kind of a good cross-section of like everything.
Yeah. I know that last year you were on Fast Tracked with Archer, and told her that organization is really kind of your focus. You don't really play competitively. You play a lot, obviously. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is something we've talked about with a lot of event organizers. Is it's like you get so deep into the organizing part that sometimes you just don't get to play a lot of the time. Do you find that that's true for you?
Yeah. I think it is and it's not. It really depends, because like I run for my day job, I run events for kids from time to time, and in that way I do kind of sneak in some ways where I'm like, hey, I have a coworker, maybe you're refereeing and I'm playing, or we're playing Juggernaut, I'm gonna carry the big blaster or start as that first zombie or something like that, because I really have that knowledge. But something like Sub-Zero or Midsummer or something like that, still learning how to negotiate in terms of like, I really want to play, but I do have this responsibility to make sure that all of the connective tissue is there, and like all of the, everybody's safe and like having a good time, and that our objectives are being met. And so that kind of, for me, takes precedent. And I'm like, oh, if I get to play in 2 weeks, I'll be really happy if I get to play like one game. But that's not my goal. My goal is to get everybody there and playing and having fun and making these memories together.
Yeah. Do you had talked also about not being a competitive player, but you were interested in the competitive scene. I mean, you're not really running competitive events.
No.
Have you had a chance to try that play style or dig into that since then in the last year?
Unfortunately not. I mean, that's that's one of the things with where geographically I'm at, is that like there's not a lot compared to those major metropolitan areas like Albany, Buffalo, New York, obviously, like mining out the map, but like those major areas, it's really a lot, and like I want to go travel and play in those games. Played a couple times in a parkour gym at Rochester. That was excellent. Like, you talk about CQB and all of that, like really fun stuff. It was a total culture shock to me, because I was like, I brought my really high level HVZ stuff, and like, okay, I'm gonna run this this stuff that's like 110, and I'm like,
right.
Shoot,
and you're just like, nah, this is not the
no, and you're just getting blown out of the water. But I'm kind of hoping with the rise in a lot of the like pro grade, hobby grade blasters that are coming on store shelves, and people kind of seeing that that's going to create an opening for some of us in these smaller areas to like really galvanize a group and be like, hey, you've seen that really cool thing with like Pac-Man, or that looks like Hatsune Miku on the Target shelf? Why don't you like grab that and come play with a group of adults or older people who are wanting to play at that speed and knowing what the risks are and willing to take it a little more seriously.
Okay, you say Hatsune Miku.
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering has a deal with Hatsune Miku.
That's
Hasbro. That's Hasbro. What if we got like a Hatsune Miku blaster? Is not completely out of the question here. The license is within the umbrella.
Yep. So I'm thinking for this, and Hasbro, if you're watching, Miku Deploy X, where it deploys and it starts doing like one of the songs. And so you press the button down. We've already seen the Deploy X on Reddit. Let's make it happen. Deploy X with Hatsune Miku collab, a Vocaloid, that's all on the table for you.
Absolutely. So, what's your involvement with Midsummer? I know you're...
Yeah, that's really... So, it kind of ties back to that, like, campus survival games tie, and that is that I am, right now, I'm the president of the Shoes event, so I'm kind of working with the... I talk about like having 2 seasons of my organization. And so one of them is that, from August to March, it's really focusing on Sub-Zero. And then from March to August, it's really focusing in on Midsummer right now.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
Yeah, so, we're working on not only HBZ, but the events expanding a lot this year. So, like, we've got a hotel block now. We're just trying to, like, build that out into more of a formal event, where maybe it was a little more casual if you've come in the past or you know about it. It's very much, I like to call it our foam flinging reunion. So like, it's a family reunion, and it's casual. But it's nice to have a little bit of structure for folks who are curious and not necessarily like in the know of people that are going to be there.
Okay. Well, and so mentioning Sub-Zero, and you've got the shirt on and everything.
Yeah.
That's the main reason we have you here to talk. This is the second one.
Yes.
Right? And it is a really cool event. Now it's a gameplay event. It's also a fundraiser for this scholarship in memory of Liam Mattingly. And Liam has so many. As I was researching this more, because I've known the name for a while and I've understood his place in the hobby to some degree, but like, not only involved with RITHVZ, he was the president of that club for a while, right? And it was on Rochester Radioactive. He was the captain of that, and also was involved with the Game Face Tryon. That I did not realize.
Yep.
He was a huge influence on the Chevron darts, from what I recall as well. The one interaction I had with him in person was at End War 2022 when Game Face was showing off the Tryon. He was one of the people there up at the booth with the slushies and everything, showing off the darts and showing off the blasters and everything else. Because Rochester, the HVZs and everything like that, Institute of Technology, that was their home turf and whatnot. So I didn't really know it was going to be the only and last time I saw them in person, though, which was rather unfortunate. But they were a good guy. They were a good guy.
Yeah.
Well, and John, would you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Liam?
So, this kind of when I had started our club, we were in Oswego. We were really like reaching out to everybody. This was a no holds barred. I'm starting this club. What advice do people have? How do we work with the other officers? Like just establishing those relationships. And Liam, he was always there. Like he was always, we had questions, or he was sharing documents. Like we were asking for charters to look at like constitutions and things like that. And so he was always like there in our corner. He wrote letters for us to our admin, board at the school to like get them to, really just being that like galvanizing force for, our club. And so that was, even before I had really like gotten to know him, that was such a big, like, wow, that he's just so fantastic. And then of course, like started playing a lot of HVZ and traveling, and he was always there with, this elephant blaster, which, for lack of a better term, is kind of it was like a demolisher rocket launcher, but it only had the back half, so it was like a pump and the button to launch it. Yeah, and it was covered in like lights and stuff like that. It was kind of this RIT staple. So he would be carrying the EB or something really like just out of left field, and he was just such a really warm presence on the field, always incredibly easy to come up to and say hi. And like, I didn't even go to RIT. Like there were so like limited chances beyond like in person to really talk to him. And so, like, thinking about that and thinking about, when we were planning week-longs and, like, talking all of the college officers, like, he was always just a voice in that group who would always kind of be sticking up for, trying to hold us to the best that we could be, and, like, just so generous with his time. And so that kind of getting to know him that way and thinking about, like, the impact that he has had, both, competitively as a designer, as, an organizer in the community, and just, like, thinking about that and thinking about, like, that this kind of hole, that, he sadly kind of, all of the work that he had to leave unfinished, like, that really, like, got to me. And so, when I think about him, I think about how fantastic he was and how warm he was and how encouraging and welcoming and all of those things that, like, I would want as somebody coming into this hobby for the first time.
Yeah. Setting an example.
Yeah, absolutely.
An example to follow.
Yeah.
So, tell me about the scholarship fund. So what, because that's a really lovely and, like, unique way, I think, to remember somebody. What does it do exactly, though? Like, who does it benefit? How does it work? So
the scholarship fund is set up at RIT. So it is for RIT students. It benefits them directly, but more specifically, it benefits students with dyslexia and other learning disorders or learning, abnormalities, differences. And that was something that, that Liam had worked with during his life, and his parents, when they set that up, that was what they had wanted it to go toward. And
lovely.
When we were kind of looking at, like, what do we want to do, that was the first thing that came to mind, was, like, we knew there was a scholarship. I knew that they had set one up in his name and that they were soliciting gifts for that. And so we decided, like, we're going to reach out to the gifts officer. We're going to reach out to them and be like, hey, we want to designate this money to that scholarship. And really, like, for him to make that impact and be like, this is something that's so tangible for us as compared to, another cause like Toys for Tots and things that we had kind of talked about. It's like, yeah, that would be great. And that would definitely sync up with our hobby. But just in terms of, like, just strictly for Liam, I mean, what better way than to keep his name current and impact students who are in a situation that he was in.
That's great. Yeah, I think a lot about the example being Joy for Socks thing I just did. And there are all these really clever ways and interesting ways to make sure that we're, like, honoring people's memories in a way that's really, really distinct. I love that. I think that's really wonderful. Let's move on to talk about the event itself some. You have this interesting sort of, like, two-sided thing where you have the in-person event in addition to sort of the online donation and raffle thing. And they sort of happen at the same time. Yeah. What's the physical event itself like? What was the decision to have like an in-person battle of? I mean, obviously that's the core of what the hobby is, right? Yeah. Like you want to represent that as much as possible, but a lot of the fundraisers are just entirely online. So, when this idea first started, it was actually like Midsummer 23, and so Liam had just, the year that he had passed was that Midsummer, and he had passed in March, early that year. I can't remember exactly now, but he had passed earlier that year, and there was this sinking kind of feeling. I drove from where I was in Oswego. I drove an hour to Rochester to go just be there with everybody. And then when I was coming back, there was this kind of sinking feeling like we have to do something. And so we had talked. I talked to a lot of the different alumni, the people I was close to there, and a fellow John had mentioned the things that we could do, and one of the things that he said to me that I'll never forget in launching into this was that
the best way to remember Liam and to be there and to celebrate his life is to do what he loved most, and to go out and to play and to leave it out there. And so that kind of became our impetus for this, was like, okay, not only do we have this event that's kind of like this time of year that's kind of lacking, but we have a really strong reason as to why we want to host something and why we want to like have that be very pivotal, despite the difficulties.
I love that. That's it's just so well centered around remembering him. That's fabulous. What you have managed to have an indoor venue in the winter, which is hard. lot of events,
extremely difficult.
Oh yeah, I gotta tell you a good story about that.
Well, you should.
Yeah. So I'll start with that. Sub-Zero 1, we were so over the moon. I mean, it was like a week out. We're checking the weather. We're like, okay, we're ready for this. We're ready for this. We're ready for this. We're getting everybody. All of our ducks are in a row. We get to the venue, and get it open and get everything situated. And finally, we're kind of just like sitting, and it had been on and off on whether or not there was going to be snow that day. We're like, okay, well, just advise people to be careful, and hopefully they're already in the area, so it'll be a short trip.
Right.
Essentially what happened was, I think there was like 2 feet of snow or something adjacent to that. Not 2 feet, maybe 6 or 7 inches. It's a little
still
much. But yeah, 6 or 7 inches of snow on event night. The green, like the team to take care of the parking lot. It's Saturday night, they're not coming. So we kind of realized, we're like, oh crap, this might not go as planned. And so, doors open, we're sitting around at like 6:30, we're like, okay, maybe people will come, maybe they won't, what do we do if they don't come, like all of this stuff. And so, game starts at 8, and doors open at 7. And so we're like, okay, 6:55, nobody, maybe they're running a little bit behind. 7, okay, we got an hour. 7:10, first couple people come through, 5 or 6, and we already had a couple people with us that were helping set up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just kind of sitting there. I think at like 7:30, we had 20 people out of 60 tickets. And we're like, all right, this is not great. What do we do for these 40 people that have just out? Like,
right.
What do we want to do for them? And so we're sitting there, I have this great photo of the admin team, and their head is in their hands, like at the desk, like this. Like it looked like the bench at a court case. And so it's so sad. And not even like 20 minutes later, 20 more people come through. And so we're like, all right, it's 46 or 47, we're on. And I do really laud everybody who came last year. But also, why did you do that? Like, and then people went home that night, and it was 2 a.m. And I'm like, guys, like, that's okay. So when we went around about it this year, we're like, okay, how do we try to avoid this situation? How do we push this off enough where it's not going to be as risky? But that was Sub-Zero 1. We have like pictures of us like writing stuff in the snow and all this stuff like that, because it was just so funny. And Archer and the rest of the admin team they were just such good sports about it the whole time.
What?
So what I'm gathering is that the Sub-Zero naming became a little bit too apt and became for the future, essentially, for the first one.
Yep.
Oh,
we were like, what are we gonna do if this happens? We're like, we're just gonna have to figure it out. And the venue, the agreement with them was super great, because it was like, okay, if you need to reschedule, you can reach out to us and let us know. And like, it's really, really.
That's good.
That's very good.
To have the flexibility. I mean, what else did you wind up changing from last year? Like, what's different this year from last year?
So, we wanted to do more freebies. We realized we wanted to do more freebies. So we're doing special event patches for the year. So we did a custom design from a friend of ours at Grove City College. She designed patches, and we're like, all right, we're going to give those out. We're doing blaster charms, changing up the games a little bit. We're going to push the times around a little bit more. and then kind of just like we really want to just explore that space. So like, okay, we're gonna try as much as we can to get it as tightly packed with as much gameplay in as many different ways, just working off of our feedback from last year and making sure that we have, at the end of the day, like a really fun event for everybody who comes in, and they feel like, you know, they're part of the family. Like we're doing more snacks and more drinks and things like that, and just also putting up a jukebox that people can add. If you're in our Discord server, you may have seen the link for the jukebox. Like, go add some songs to that playlist. Like those things about just really knitting everything together, because we're in such a small venue as compared to some other places. Like we want to really knit.
When you load the jukebox on the Discord, is that it plays that music in the actual building? Is that how that works?
Yeah, we're gonna run audio through the building. So we're gonna have a couple speakers scattered around and things like that, so we can just have some lobby music.
Can you stack up "What's Up, Pussycat"?
Yeah, thanks for that. Because now I'm gonna have to deal. Who is that? Is that Tom? Oh, jeez. I sent it out this evening, like not even 10 minutes before we started this. I was like, okay, what garbage is just gonna infest this list? Like I know, I sent it out to 100 people. It's like, okay, guys, go nuts. I'm gonna prune it, but do whatever you want. So like, I'm just very excited to see, before I go prune it, what's on there. So if you wanna throw in "What's Up, Pussycat," sure. But after like time 5, I'm probably gonna get rid of it. But Tom's Diner's on the table.
Tom's Diner, of course. Yeah. Never Gonna Give You Up, all the classics.
Yeah. Thank you.
Barbie Girl.
Rick rolls. Yeah. I want to be rickrolled. I want to be rickrolled as I'm like running around trying to get the raffle ready. I want to just have that sinking feeling.
Hats off to somebody who puts getting Mick rolled on there. If you're familiar with that old internet meme.
Oh my god.
Any like Neil Ciceriga, anything like that? That whole album, Mouth Sounds, whole album. Put it on there.
Oh my god. That said, I know tickets are sold out.
Yes.
This year to the event. But of course, people can still participate online in the fundraiser. What's the story with that? Where can people find that stuff? Where can they donate? How does the raffle work? What's the story?
Yeah, so the raffle we're going to be setting up in a couple of days here. So you can go on to the Sub-Zero Chatter Up, which will be down in the link. And essentially there's an option that says buy raffle tickets. There's a 5, there's a 10. You put your name on those. We get you entered into the raffle. If does not matter where you are, we will send the prize, whatever you win, there. We're going to be putting out our prizes over the next week to week and a half. We'll be putting each one from hey, we've got this, we've got that. I'm building some blasters. We've got a really cool Demolisher build from Director Lasik. From Survival Fest. So it's all Survival Fested out, half darts. It looks really cool. So we've got those. We've got some other projects coming in, handmade items. We've got, new blasters, things that you might not have been able to get your hands on yet. Things that are, I can't say we have this for sure, but I will say that there is something that is in very limited supply, an old favorite in a new frosty color, that may be coming to the raffle, is what I'll say. Is that
frosty?
A frosty color blaster, and that's really kind of the cool thing. Is a lot of the stuff is very with the blue and the white, and working on that color scheme. So
okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm working on an H claw, which was just put in the. I don't remember who put it there, but it's like a Havren X Talon Claw kind of thing. It has this funny mag that lives on the side. So I'm working on one of those, and just there's a lot of cool stuff coming on the pipe. So we will be putting that out on Facebook. We will be putting that out on our Discord server, and hopefully into the wider community. It's hey, look at all these cool things that you probably have a pretty good chance of winning, because the raffle really isn't as big as the corporate charity drive. So there's some good chance that you can get some cool stuff. We're also working.
Hopefully, we're making it a little bit bigger. I definitely.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We're also working with 5 Minute Respawn. They are really generously giving us the proceeds from their TeePublic for the month of February, and they're actually running
so cool.
Sub-Zero shirts with this year's patch design on there. So I think they're like $17. We had a lot of people who were asking for these jerseys. My very kind response to them is like, not right now. Yeah, these are, but we do have some shirts for you if you want to rep. They've got the like melted, it's like a melted snowman with a nightingale in hand. It's really cool. Like he's flying all over the place. I'll have to send you the photo.
Oh,
but it's
I've seen it. I've seen that image. It's so good.
Yeah, so it's that patch design, but you throw it on a shirt, you throw it on whatever color. I really like, there's like a blue heather that looks kind of like the design, so it kind of blends in.
A lot of the heathers on those websites are very, very good. That's super comfy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is good to know because I've just ordered mine. So yeah, you can, if you want to order a shirt. Containment Crew is also donating proceeds from their orders to the event for the month. They're also offering in-person pickup at the event. So if you are looking to get an order in and don't want to pay for shipping, order it with Charles and the team and pick it up at...
I saw Charles post about that.
Yeah,
really cool.
Which is great. I think I ordered like $100 worth of stuff last year. That's my excuse. Like,
This is my opportunity.
I've got one of those worker swords, like those tiny little worker swords. I'm like, I need one of those. Yeah. You know, just all of that stuff. You know, refill on mags, like all that. So there's so many, and I want to say thank you to them, and I hope that, you know, our gratitude comes through. But like, there's so many amazing people who are just coming out of the woodwork to say like, yeah, we'll do something, or yeah, you know, we really want to boost the message and things like that. So like, it's really like we could not do it without so many well-connected folks. So like you guys, thank you.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely.
This is the easiest, most wonderful thing.
The hobby's capability to do good for the sake of another person and for people to come together and contribute to that is one of the like wonderful things that I really love seeing here. Whether it be with the Corvette drive, back when Clowny was doing his drive, I know there was the World Foam Alliance did their thing a year or two ago. Sub-Zero, all of these different things. It's just very awesome to see when they all come together, and then all of the people who are willing to come together say, hey, I can contribute this, hey, I can do that, I'll do this, just to like, you know, help boost it and make sure that things go smoothly. People have the ordinary person who might not otherwise be interested has a reason to get interested, or at the very least check it out. Signal boost, like a lot
of generous and charitable people within this hobby in a lot of different ways. We have I have that even on the charity drive that I typically do during October. I have a lot of individuals, people like Radioactive Designs and, you know, Domochevsky and a bunch of other people just start offering up their own personal builds and things like that, which is always really awesome when you see people do that.
In a way that I think is unique among, like, I've been in other hobbies where people are nice. But like, in a way, it feels very unique in this hobby. Like the degree to which people are willing to put their blood, sweat, and tears into.
Yeah, like they put their own personal, like I said, their own personal designs, their own personal things. Even the, like, you know, like I said, Containment Crew, like individuals like that, like, you know, shops and stuff will also start offering up things. It's really awesome, like how much they all are willing to give whatever they can a lot of times to a lot of these things. It's always really awesome to see.
I want to ask you about your fundraising goals. First of all, what was your goal last year? And I heard that it went pretty well.
Yeah, so our goal last year was $1,000. And that was just like really testing the water to see one, like, are we gonna break even? And then two, like, how much further can we go? And so we managed to hit 1,200 last year through, you know, it was phenomenal. I mean, like, seeing the letter come back through, because we posted the letter as like, hey, this is the kind of receipt. And seeing the letter come back through from RIT and the staff there about like, this is the amount, this is where it's going, you know, such and such, like, seeing that letter made manifest and like having that correspondence with them was so gratifying, because it's like at the end of the day we were like, yes, here's this, you know, pile of like money. Here we have raised it for this. We want it to go here, and this is why. And this is from our hobby to you, you know, to the students who need it. So that was so special. And our goal this year is we're gonna try for 1,500. I think that is an attainable.
I think you're gonna smash it.
I hope so.
That's an attainable goal. Yeah. I know, at least historically speaking, from the Corbett charity drive, Joy of Socks one, historically any goal, usually if you set them, they'll get met. The hobby will find a way. So
I think.
Yeah, and Corbett, I mean, Colin and Rachel are like really kind of our guide stones in like terms of like, hey, we have questions about, you know, the raffle or things like that. They're just so they paved the way so that so many people, you know, can do this and feel confident and like this will work.
They're amazing people. They're amazing people. Well, I'm excited to see that it's always like you always have the like thermometer. But I guess for you it should be like the opposite, right?
It should be like an icicle.
Flip it, and it should be like,
icicle. Yeah.
Like,
I'll get on that.
Or you just have the thermometer, but you have the thing going backwards.
Okay, that's cool. I dig that. I think we'll do that.
Or you're like,
we'll get that
or like
on there.
upside down, you're filling it blue. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah,
There's
something
a metaphor
like that.
there somewhere. There's a
You
metaphor.
burst the goal too hard, and it's like the level's called hypothermia or something.
It's like, please find a doctor, something like that. Permafrost. We talked about this, because there's so many like funny puns, heat puns and stuff like that. So we were talking about like, what if we do like a sub-zero like winter thaw or something like that, where we're doing it this summer, at Midsummer or like something like that. Just working with.
Right.
So we've had so many good puns pop up in our meetings where we're like, yeah, we want to use that, and at some point it'll come around.
Someday you'll figure it out. Well, folks, listeners, make sure you check those links down in the description. Check the raffle. Check the event. There's a lot of cool opportunities, cool stuff to potentially win, but also let's just show how powerful our hobby is, and how much potential we have to give and to take care of our community, and smash that donation goal 100%. Yeah. We have a segment on this show where we get questions from our Ko-Fi. Speaking of generous people, we have a Ko-Fi where people can support the Foam News Collective, and we have some generous folks who give us money every single month. Partly because we're just like relearning how to make this show after taking 2 months off, and I asked really late. We don't have any questions, but I have a question for you that isn't really apropos of anything, so I'm going to ask it in this part of the thing. But now is when I'm going to ask you to explain all your different names.
Names. Yeah, names.
On Discord, you're Lock747.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Yeah, great. This is like
are you like referring to the philosopher, or like?
That's tough. Yeah. So there's a lot of there's a lot of names that there's a lot of ways that you get your name on the internet, right? I'm sure like Grimz, Vile, KT, you've all had some sort of like internet name story about like, this is how I got it. Mm-hmm. So I was, when I started playing Minecraft when I was a young man. You get a randomly assigned. Right. This starts back when I was like 10, and it keeps going. So when I was there, I had those random like characters at the end, and so that was name 747. I was like, oh cool, this is like a good name, like it's 0747. So I'm like, all right, chop that off. Later on, I was. This is so funny because people are like, yeah, is it the philosopher? I'm like, no, it's the thief from Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna ask if it wasn't the philosopher. My first guess for some reason is like Spartan Lock from like Halo, because like for some reason 747 sounded correct and the spelling looked correct. I was just like
a Spartan number.
No, it's the default name for the thief in Final Fantasy VI, which
the only reason that I would think of the philosopher is because your name is John.
Yes, and John Locke. Yes,
that's where the connection to the philosophy.
Yeah, so you could say, hey, I'm really well read, so it's John Locke. Hey, I'm really into Halo, which is also true, so it is Spartan Locke, which is like, I would think like Buck or Noble or like one of those other cooler names would be first. And then, hey, I'm really into JRPGs that I don't fully finish. Locke from Final Fantasy VI.
Real.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that.
This could be your Joker origin story, where just every time someone asks you, you just pick a different one. And
So that's and what's funny is that doesn't even like translate to the real world. That's just what I am on like everything. So if you see like Steam or Discord or like anything else, you see Locke 747. That's probably me, or some permutation.
Okay, so what's with SZBB?
So in this kind of toss-up of like, what do you know yourself by in the foam flinging community? There's so many groups that I could be like, oh yeah, I'm a part of this, I'm a part of that. Like it came from OB, which was Oswego Blasters, my club in Oswego. So that was, for a long time, that was kind of my parentheses when people look at my name and they're like, where do I know him from? Oswego. And then it was Zombie Awareness Organization.
Oh, it's short for Sub-Zero Blaster Battle.
Yes.
I put two and two together. Like as soon as you asked the question, I was like, SZBB. Wait, Sub-Zero Blaster
Battle.
Right, of course. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So now you got to explain what the WC is for.
WC. So you're talking about new lore. In my ever continuing quest to find that beautiful Humans vs Zombies call sign. Last year at Survival Fest, I put together a crew that was dedicated to pulling the water cart. So we had two like 10-gallon Gatorade containers on a trolley, and we pulled it across Penn State campus, and we gave water to everybody all day. And so WC, the water cart, because people started calling me that during the game. I was like, okay, I'll roll with that. So now. During the games, I literally like bring the cart, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna pull the cart most of the day and like play some of the game, because it's a lot of the time like I've played a lot of these games, and so it's like I love playing the game, but I also just like interacting with people and like goofing around and pulling the stupid wagon all day and like making sure people are hydrated and not passing out and all of that good stuff. So like that's kind of WC is like, some people do call me, some people say water cart. They know when I'm pulling it, so it's just like, okay, WC, like, cool.
I love
that.
Something. That's wonderful.
What other ones? There's probably some others. One in the vault.
Yeah. What else you got?
So I was just okay. My first one was just Jay. When I was in the first club in Binghamton, it's just the John crisis. There were so many Johns, and I was the last one to the party. So they literally just started calling me the letter J, because they were like, there's too many of you. You say John, there's 20 of us looking at you. And we all look the same. We're all, tallish, scraggly guys with glasses. So we need something. So that was that. That's the easiest one to explain.
All right. Fair enough.
You would have had a hell of a time back in New York, back when J Nerf was still around, because Jay isn't his name, but he goes by Jay. So like, had that happened, you would have run into a hell of a time, because that would have been another situation there.
Yeah,
with clashing stuff. But that's about a decade earlier or so.
Yeah. And digging into some of that culture stuff about that time, it's just so like. I know Kate's
wait! I just joked a decade ago, but I just realized that actually was a decade ago, because wait! I joined the hobby in 10 years. All right, it was like January 2015. I've hit my 10 years in the hobby. Oh no!
How time flies.
We've been in here too long.
Need I remind you that me and Vile's interactions in the music world were 15 years ago.
About 15, yeah. It was 2010 era. Yep. In the chiptune scene.
Time will do that. Time will do that to you.
Time will do that to you.
I've been here too long.
Me and KT's original origin story started with these guys right here. That's where our origin story actually started. And for anybody who's listening in, I just whipped out an original Game Boy. Yeah.
Oh, you've got 4 of them.
Oh, KT has all of the original Play It Loud. I have a red Play It Loud, but mine's in a music case right now. So
I was gonna say, you might have seen that in one of these. You know, one of my Nintendo.
Yeah,
anyone who knows my other life knows that a lot of the music I was making for a long time was centered around Game Boy based chiptune.
Yep.
So those are my instruments.
KT, I've shared around one of the images you sent of the attempt at modding a Game Boy for chiptune. It was one of the clear ones that you had tried like putting in like a dip to dye it back before we had like the dye paints, the melted one. I can tell you that every single person who saw that image cringed and died inside a little when they saw the like molten shell.
At the time, they weren't that hard to get, obviously, but also
but now they are a little bit more.
That one failed one is the one that helped me make like 20 successful ones. So it's like,
I remember the picture.
Who still use the Game Boy that modded back then.
I remember the picture on chipmusic.org when you posted about that.
Yeah,
because I remember thinking like, "Oh, that's so bad."
Everybody remembers that, but nobody remembers when I was the first person to fit 2 quarter-inch
jacks. Yeah, one on both sides. I remember it. I remember the images. That's what I'm saying. That is our origin story. We know that stuff.
To fame.
Yeah,
15 years ago. Anyway,
find someone who knows your lore enough that they remember your forum name.
My original forum name was Vile. I was known as Vile back then. Yeah, I'm still known as Vile. I've just put mods at the end.
I've always been Kinetic Turtle as well, which is another one of these name origin things, right? It's like I didn't intend to become KT in the Nerf scene, but I was just trying to figure out what to call myself, and it felt weird to use my name when I started Family Foam Sport, and I just wound up abbreviating the name I'd been using online, and now it's just stuck.
Yeah.
See, in my case, I've been active online for a long time, and I've had like a litany of names with like various origin stories. But in my case, I didn't become vocal and active, like as in more than an observer really online, outside of a couple niche places, except for the Nerf scene. And so by then, I went by a couple names, but the first one that stuck was the Grimz Nerf Works around then. And so that it's just been the like most forward facing one. It's just been the one that's kind of stuck around. Because it came from high school nickname, because people around that time I acted a lot more, I guess, how would you call it, happy-go-lucky? So my friend gave it to me as a misnomer nickname at the time. And then so a bunch of people just started calling me that. And they didn't know I was actually a little depressed or whatever, so they didn't realize, it was a little accurate. But then
hitting too close to home there, huh?
Yeah, Grim became the name, and I was just like, what do I call myself in this Nerf stuff? Well, I mean, everyone calls me this, so I guess I'll put this. And then I was just like, well, I don't want to put an S there because that reads weird if I put Grimz Nerf Works, so I put a Z, and then I became friends with Bobo because the intent was for it to read like Devil's Nerf Works reads, where he has a Z. Everyone calls him Devil Z. Now, even though it's supposed to be Devil's Nerf Works, Bobo kept calling me Grim.
Getting capitalized, which throws everybody off. I think
Bobo started calling me Grimz, and then Grim Reaper came along, and we met each other pretty early on, and we realized, oh shit, there's 2 people that abbreviate to Grim. So I guess I'll just go with the. I'll just there's not enough room for the both of us, so I guess I'll just add I'll make the Z permanent then, I guess, since people are already calling me that, and it makes it easier to distinguish. So for the longest time, if you met me or Grim, our bio would say like Grim but not Grimz, or Grimz but not Grim. Mine still says that to this day, for example. Because I've had people come up to me at events and say, oh, you're the guy who does all those integrations. I said, no, that's my buddy Grim. I'll pass the feedback along to them, though.
But how many times does Grim get asked if they do the news? That's the question.
Yeah,
that is the question. I don't think they get out enough to like get asked that question, but it was weird because I know at 2022, I had a shocking number of people asking me to sign stuff for my normal YouTube, but there were at least 5 or 6 people who also asked if I was the dude who did the integrations. And then he was at that exact same event. He was just held up and didn't show up until 40 minutes later. And then there's a photo of me and him pointing at each other. And I later told him, hey, 5 or 6 people wanted your autograph, by the way. And he was just like, what?
Well, 2022 is just such a strange beast. Like, I was there, because of course it's in New York. Like, I'm gonna drop everything and go to this thing.
It was a hobby waking back up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it woke up into like a little bit of a waking nightmare, and then got out of bed and like got its coffee.
That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, and that was like, that was another kind of, and I'm so glad that that's changed over the past couple of years. Is like, that was another point where I'm like, whoa, we need to do stuff for ourselves. Like, no ill will toward any of the organizers that put that together. Like, I don't mean that. It's just the elements that came together was like pasta sauce and peanut butter. Like, it didn't quite gel. It just didn't quite get there. And so, now, like, being able to stand with that group, and this is kind of why I'm drawn to organizing, is like, we need to fit the right thing in the right place. Like, we need to get things to be cool and good, and like get our venues on board, and like really build the name of the hobby in this way, so that way when Joe Schmo decides that they want to have the next end war at RIT or at a like a state park or something, like they can have that, and we have some groundswell for them already to kind of like take that first step.
Yeah,
I get you. You want to make sure that everything is synergized and well fit together. Not
Absolutely.
Everything goes into the square hole, essentially.
No. Your pro tournament does not go into your HVZ tournament invite hole.
that's right. It goes in the square hole.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So that's kind of, that's my thoughts in brief on that. I had a lot more, but I think the best way to put it is that way.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. There has to be some kind of guidance. There has to be a ground, a basis.
Absolutely. It's just got to be.
Things.
There's got to be something that like makes sense about this.
Yeah. Well. I had a transition in my mind a minute ago and I lost it. So instead, I am simply going to welcome you to our increasingly notorious hobby trivia game. It's that time. Where we will ask you 3 trivia questions about our hobby, and if you are able to get 2 out of 3 of them right, they're all multiple choice, of course. Then you will win an opportunity for one of our listeners to ask a free question of our next podcast guest, as if they were a Ko-Fi subscriber. You folks, you listeners, you people on the internet can enter this raffle by being a part of our, not this one, the next one, by being a part of our Discord and just reacting to a message that I send every time we have an episode that we're working on. And waiting for me to realize, as we are working on the show, that I have yet again forgotten to
ask
run the raffle, and going to random.org again, and
this is I've been looking forward to this. I've been wondering. I've been studying. I took a spreadsheet. I'm like, what questions are they going to ask me? Like, what is going to come up? Trying to get it all together.
A little look behind the curtain. There were a lot of red flashing alert vibes. It's been a minute since we've done this.
So maybe I got the easy
Oh my
road
god!
out.
Okay, this has never happened before. Because I always do the initial react, but for some reason it changed the way that it does the reacts. So I picked a random number, and it wound up being me. It was like 11.
Oh,
you
great.
win!
Congrats.
Congratulations!
It's out of order. Hold on, we're redoing that.
Yeah.
Oh well, now okay, whatever. 1, 2.
Well, folks at home, as Vile plays the Game Boy,
NBL
wish me luck.
USMC. I don't know you.
Okay, that's fine.
Does
I don't know you either, but I'm sure you're an excellent person.
I'm sure they're
Lay it
great.
on.
I'm sure they're very cool. They've never posted in the Discord, but they did like this thing. So
Hey,
NBL
cool.
UMC, UMBC.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
wait,
Your time's to shine and like not be a lurker. If you win, you'll get to
Yeah,
message
yeah.
something. Vocalize yourself a little.
What is USMC? Now I just want to know USMC.
Like okay, not UMBC
United
because
States Marine Corps.
Oh, okay.
Is it a school? I mean, maybe that's
Well,
maybe they're a Marine.
I
Anyway,
kept hearing UNSC for some reason.
UNSC. Well, I actually
dude, there's Spartan Mark's here.
which is the Maryland Mayhem
If I remember
School.
correct, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think he was part of the San Diego Nerf Club. Actually,
Oh, okay.
I think he was. If I remember correctly, I think that's the same name. I'm pretty sure he was part of the San Diego Club.
Friend from out west.
Well,
Yeah.
friendly reminder that if you are that person and you're hearing this and you are listening to the trivia game and you win, you need to reach out to me. I am not chasing people down anymore to get questions. You need to reach out to me and be like, hey, I was the winner. I'm excited for my question. And
Yeah.
yes. And that is that.
take advantage of
timing
that
is
free
always
question.
2 weeks, so just reach out to me anytime in the next 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll announce who the next podcast guest is soon enough. But for the moment, I'm excited to welcome you to the Rochester Institute of Trivia. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about Rochester in honor of Liam's close connections to
Lovely.
the Rochester Institute of Technology and Rochester in general. How do you feel about that? I know you're up there pretty often, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I've been around the block, the inner loop, if you Rochester people would.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see how you fare.
Oof,
in this segment.
I'm sorry in advance, guys. I'm gonna lose all my cred. I'm never gonna be allowed back there.
Yeah, you're gonna stop the border of the city.
Yeah.
All right, who
KT,
wants to go
I'm
first?
gonna. Even though question 3 makes a lot of sense, I'm gonna take question 2. I'm gonna call that one.
Okay. Well, do you want to start? Or do you want me to start?
It doesn't matter. I'm good with either.
You go first.
All right, I can go first then. Okay. The Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York holds a decent-sized collection of Nerf blasters and other toys. What is the oldest dart-firing blaster in the Strong Museum collection? Is it A, the 1991 Ballmaster, B, 1992 Sharpshooter, or C, 1997 Max Force Hornet?
Ooh. And I love this museum, guys. I study museums.
I thought you might have an affinity for them. I've been there.
It's such a nice museum too, and I think they have
they
have a ball blaster in their collection.
But this says oldest dart firing blaster.
Curses.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear the options again too if you need to. It's all
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the sharpshooter and what was the middle one?
so it was A, 1991 Ballmaster,
Yep.
B, 1992 Sharpshooter, or C, 1997 Max Force Hornet.
I'm gonna say they don't have a. Yeah, I'm gonna say that they don't have a sharpshooter. They have the Max Force Hornet.
So you're going with Max Force Hornet?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
You would be correct.
Yes.
Yes, they only have the 1997 Max Force Hornet as their oldest, I should say.
Weird.
As their oldest.
Weird.
Yeah, it is actually kind of weird that they don't have anything
Previous
older
to
than
that, yeah.
They work so closely with Hasbro. Why don't they have?
Who knows? They have a couple bow and arrows in their collection, and they have the Ballmaster, and they have couple other older things, and they have an original Nerf ball and all that stuff, but they don't have
Nerf Man, Brett.
They have a bunch of Rebel stuff.
Yeah, and like a Minecraft. I have a photo of the case, and it's like the Minecraft Jolt is one of them, the Guardian Jolt. But Brett, send them the Nerf Man.
Well, I did a bunch of research on the Strong Museum too, because I was trying to learn a bunch of stuff about plastics preservation, working on my museum project. And what I learned is that museums are still figuring out plastics preservation. They do not know what to do.
They're still figuring everything out, especially if it's come out in the last 30 years.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you don't know until later. That's part of the thing.
As I'm holding on to a 1989 plastic shell right here of these old Game Boys. And
Reminds me of that one like Game Boy that like caused the Nintendium meme that got like nuked or whatever and is still
the Gulf
Tetris
War.
to this day.
Yeah, it was in the Gulf War and it was like in the desert and it was all melted, but it worked.
That's great. But like the Garfield clocks that like wash up on the shore
Oh yeah.
of like France, you've seen those.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason.
One tip for plastics preservation is do not give your plastics to your like 2-year-old who will break the battery cover on your really rare blue Game Boy shell that you can only get in Sweden for like 2 years, and that's why they're like impossible to find. Anyway.
Yeah. Don't Don't give them to your dog.
Yeah.
And
that too.
2-year-old and dog.
Okay. All right, you're one up. That's great.
All right. Next question. HVZ is recognized as being founded in 2005 at Goucher College, and the Rochester Institute of Technology was one of the first clubs to start soon after. What year did RIT HVZ begin? Was it A, 2006, B, 2007, C, 2009? Also, apologies in advance for that first college name. I probably butchered it.
Goucher? No, you said Goucher, right? As far as I'm aware.
Oh, okay, cool. We got it right then.
Nailed it.
We know
First
about
try.
Goucher. There's a really interesting project in this, which is like, and I'm sure there's a few people who have done it, which is like, sorry, sidebar, tracking the viral infection of HVZ. And I think my friend Scotty Solomon has done it, but I'm not 100%. Oh man, I'm gonna say 2007.
That's your final answer?
I'm really curious what your why.
What my rationale is behind that.
Yeah. I'm really
You know, it's just I feel like you need to give something a little bit of time before you can say like, yeah, and Goucher, you know, I just feel like for them it's gonna be like, hey, we need to have a little bit of time to see that this happens, and like you need that infiltration period about like there's a bunch of games, there's a really cool thing, it's got, you know, like the thinking about early YouTube, like Goucher, early YouTube 2006. I feel like it wouldn't have really infiltrated until 2007.
All right, you would be correct. It is B, 2007.
Yes! Killing it.
You're two for two so far.
So this one is interesting because that piece of information was way harder to find than I thought.
Okay, and how did you find it?
It is not listed on RITHVZ's website. You cannot go back there. None of their social media pages are old enough to go back to that time. Pardon me. What I eventually found was on the way back. The thing I finally found that confirmed it was on the Wayback Machine going to the HVZ wiki, which no longer exists because
a lot of those resources are just gone now.
The humansversuszombies.org website only recently went down, unfortunately. And don't go there because there's like scammy ads.
Gambling site or whatever, I think.
Damn it.
The wiki is still preserved, and the page for Rochester is frozen in 2010. And it does say that 2007 was the first one, and the hint that I had that it was either 2006 or 2007 was I was looking up articles in the school paper, and in 2007, in the middle of their 1 week event, and it was Zach, what's his last name? Zach starts with the last name starts with a B. I found him on LinkedIn, and he actually has founder of RITHVZ.
You're the guy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And in the middle of their first week, this was the same year there were a number of college campus shootings.
Yes.
And they forced them to shut the event down.
Yes.
And they wound up rescinding the rule, but at that point it had been interrupted, and they basically called it for that year.
It's done. Yeah.
But then the next year they worked it out. They had a full event, and it has gone on to be one of the longest running HVZ.
Rare humans versus zombies truce.
Yeah.
Humans versus zombies versus police. You never win. Also, I will get the Rochester E-board to acknowledge their roots. guys, it's been almost.
They should.
It's been I mean, it's been almost.
It's one of the longest running
years.
ones, and they should absolutely be saying that.
Yeah.
They were also one of the first ones to try humans versus zombies. They did.
Yes.
It was like 2009 or 2010. They were one of the first places to do it.
Yeah, which, like, the researching of this hobby is so interesting because so many people have tried, but they've never, like, compiled a full resource. Like, it's always like, we stopped in, like, 2015. Nobody's ever,
And we're losing the resources we have if we.
Oh, yes. I mean, there's...
in a real way.
So part of a teaser for Midsummer is that you want to be there Friday night because we're doing something that's very zombie-esque. We're bringing it back a few favorites. We're resurrecting a couple of things that you may have seen before if you've played HVZ for a long time. And so part of that is that we need to contact these places and say, hey, what do you have? Like, what is the oldest mission document? Mission document that you have. What do you have? And so, RIT, when I was talking to them, we've always had a great relationship, obviously, and so, like, one of those was they have, like, an archive of their archive of their
Okay.
3 layers deep of, like, all of this archival stuff. It's like, oh man, you need a couple people to come in and, like, clean. But if you're coming to Midsummer, be there for Friday night. You're not going to want to miss this blast from the past.
I can't wait to hear about it.
So
okay, so you've already won, but we're going to ask you the first question anyway because
of course.
I researched it and I wrote it down. So we're gonna do it.
You'll...
What?
Oh, I was gonna say you'll understand why I said this would have made the most sense for me to pick in about a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Liam Mattingly made the final point in 2022's Dart Zone Pro Tournament, winning it for Rochester Radioactive. When he made that run, what blaster was he carrying? Was it A, a Dart Zone Pro Mark III, B, a Dart Zone Pro Mark 1.2, or C, a Caliburn?
It wouldn't have been a Caliburn. No, wait.
And why not?
No. Because they didn't give them out. They used only in-house Dart Zone stuff for that tournament, and it threw everybody off. I have a photo of him.
You passed the first test of knowledge, which I figured you would.
I think he's holding. I think he's holding a 1.2.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Yes, you are 100%
Yes,
correct.
I have this.
Correct.
I have this picture of him giving, and it's in our program. And I'll share it. I have the biggest photo of him, like, in the air, midair, full out hugging his teammate.
That's lovely.
And I swear to God that fucking Mark 1.2. So I was like, is it the Omnia? Because I know that's what they ran.
I specifically remember, and I can't remember who this was, but there was a thing where people were at the table checking the blasters out and trying to. There was someone specifically who was like, just took the scope off Mark III and was like, I'm not using this. And they were like, no, it has to stay on.
Yes,
and
this
so
was a product show for them.
They put it on the bottom of the foregrip. And they were like, no, it has to be on the top where it belongs. And it was like, so they all had to run with the scopes on the top.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I remember this very clearly. I was I stayed on Sunday because I wanted to watch the tournaments, the last rounds. And I remember there was a lot of, like, uproar because they had qualified with their Caliburns and their stuff like that. And then, day of, and, like, they had to switch over to the new Dart Zone stuff, but it wasn't working.
Right.
It wasn't like he was, I swear, Liam was, like, fiddling with this, trying to unjam the 1.2 because the darts kept getting stuck in the barrel.
Well,
like, they fully, like, field stripped it.
Like, figuring out the problems and coming up with solutions and stuff, but, like, they weren't allowed to modify stuff, and it was just
I still remember as well, because one of the huge controversies that the competitive players were having issue with is that Silly Butts, the day that they had, like, a day where if you were one of the people who were invited out early, you got to go to a bowling alley and see them early. He figured out what the problem was in about 5 minutes and showed out how to fix it, and they're like, all right, we're going to call you and bring you out early to fix all them before the tournament, and then he never got any contact from them on it. So he had had already figured out the issue and was
That's
like,
the worst.
because I remember because me and him were talking about it, and then we saw that the environment was kind of getting a little hostile as the tournament was going on, and me and him were just kind of dicking around after, and we were just like, all right, idea, everyone's getting hostile, we need a diversion. There was a practice field, so we were like, and he's just like, all right guys, Silly Butts Pro Tour. So he whipped out all of his blasters that he had there, and then we brought them out, started having a bunch of people running around playing like pickup games while to kind of vent out some of the stress. And then Game Face designer was like, hey, what are you guys doing? I described the problem. He's like, hey, I have some try-ons in the back. Do you want me to bring them out? I was like, yes, please. And then he brought them out, and then all the competitive players started like playing. And so like one of the only like old videos that I still have up on my channel is like a video called Silly Butts Pro Tour. And I basically like did like a redo of the Dart Zone Pro Tour like advertisement, and then rebranded it a little with like some of the events that transpired.
Yeah, the one ad.
That's so good. I also just want to say, for anyone wondering, the connection with that question to Rochester is not just Liam directly. That last competitive game was, of course, between Rochester Radioactive and Flower City Fallout.
Yep.
Family teams, and so much of that round is them hiding behind cover and knowing exactly what their opponents are planning on doing, because they practice together all the time. They were like the most ridiculous possible teams to go against each other.
It was and it's a shame that's kind of they've come on some issues, those teams, but like watching them compete and was just so special, despite the whole like everything else around that. Like there was a whole really cool like through line with them, and so to like, because they had somebody on there had just finished like cancer treatment or something along those lines. One of the players on Radioactive had, and just like was able to go through and finish the game and win it in that way, and it was just like such a special, very like, you rarely see that, and like being able to like have that special moment and
yeah.
So it's that tournament and that event, despite like being in all this mire, is really kind of like a special thing, and I wish we could go back. And
there were a lot of fun moments despite all of it, especially despite the heat. Oh god, that was bad. I can still remember, because I remember Spam after the fact. He was in one of the ref jerseys afterwards. We went and we got some garbage plates after. Oh my god, it was so hot in that building.
Yeah, it was scorching. So like and that was why we started doing like the water thing with this group. It's like, oh my god, you're going to be out here in the sun, in the heat, in the elements, like warm or cold. That's ridiculous, like crazy. So
I vaguely remember Game Face was running one of the water booths that year at the HVZ.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing that went the fastest. Is he literally was set up there in I think it was Infinity Quad, which is like that's their safe zone, right outside the briefing room. So he was set up there and just giving out water. Like, no question asked. And of course, it's just, there's a lot of like sad, kind of, not sad, but bittersweet, like, tales in that moment, because also then Game Face, released the Gion and then kind of.
It all teetered off. Yeah.
And it's just such a, because like the Tryon is such a great blaster. If I could, I think I'm going to try to get my hands on one.
I need to try to get my hands on one too.
Yeah.
Like, we've also been trying to like think of an excuse to get Blasterface on the podcast at some point, because like that would be really fun.
Well,
It'll happen.
He's just got such like a fascinating background as like Hasbro designer, and then out of that and working with all these people, and then kind of getting like.
Let's be honest. The excuse to have Blasterface on the podcast just needs to be that we need to have Blasterface on the podcast.
Yeah.
Also, we used to be much more focused on like, okay, like what's going on this week? Let's get someone right in there at just the right time, and it's like that's ridiculous. Like, it's great to have you on like right before right before Sub-Zero is happening, and like that's very intentional, but like it's not always going to be like that.
No,
Gotta get cool people on when we can get
absolutely, and like having Blasterface kind of speak his piece would be really cool to watch.
The interesting thing about his case as well is it's weird because normally you see like someone join the hobby and then go to the mothership or go to some other designer. You don't typically see someone come from the mothership then join the hobby after the fact, after even the gig is over, you know. You don't typically see people stick around and then become one of the most vocal people in the hobby. Like it's such a perplexing thing. I've never seen that happen before, but here he is, and
and I think that's such a cool thing.
It's very neat, and it's a very welcome thing to have, though.
Absolutely,
regardless.
Like the perspective that he brings into the discussions that we have is like so cool. Like if you're on the Discord server, not to plug the FNC Discord server anymore.
No, plug it. No, keep plugging.
But if you're on the FNC Discord server,
I cannot imagine that the Venn diagram of people who listen to this podcast. Over an hour into it, and also are on our Discord. That is a circle.
Yeah,
that is a circle.
That's like a dot.
It is a circle. You know.
So but like the discussions that he brings to the server, they're just so interesting because it's like this perspective about like not only the design but like the inner. Like here's why the things, because these designers like they want to do these cool projects, but unfortunately they're tied down by XYZ or this is like.
Manufacturing complications or the companies and how they work and pinching a penny here and there, trying to cut the cost even further or what have you. It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm very interested in sort of like, and we try to do this on the show whenever we can, but like trying to get a larger swath of the audience to understand the relationship between like the object you hold in your hands and like all the layers of business decisions that go on before that, and like how that results in the differences that you have between the Nerf or Dart Zone blaster that you buy off the shelf and the thing that's designed by an individual. And like
it's like when we were talking with Banned Blasters before, the end of last year, like right towards the end there, and he was talking about working with Siren. And he explained the same things. He did all this work trying to make everything absolutely as perfect as he could, and then he just has to hand it off, and then from there it's out of his control.
And then he has to deal with people's issues.
He gets to hear
not the thing he's designed.
Basically, like, hey, why doesn't my Siren or my Gnarl or this or that, my Blink, whatever the heck it is? It's like, why doesn't this work this way? I'm like, I don't know. I built it that way.
I put parts in it and handed it off. That's all I can tell you guys.
You want the name of the guy at the factory that did that?
Here's his card. That's kind of
As frustrating as it was that we couldn't get Hasbro to clear the designers of some of the more recent stuff to come on the podcast because they wanted to, I also do think that is partially for the best that Hasbro does take that kind of stance, because in a way it does protect the designers from receiving that kind of backlash for stuff.
Yeah, I mean, part of my goal is always, and I feel like we tried to do this with Band Blasters, but is like give them a chance to talk so you can understand their perspective. But Hasbro doesn't want people
want that kind of
thing. They've got the company line to toe.
Speaking of major brands, and speaking of decisions that they somehow make, so Nerf recently had this, I think, a fiasco. I'm sure they're selling. I'm sure they're making money on it. The zombie line, right? Yeah. They come out with this. What's the pseudo melee one?
There it is.
Yeah, there you
go. I have it. I wish I had brought it out. I have it in my. I have it in my stove.
And the hammer primed
and the strikeout
one. Yeah, the strike. There's a couple of different ones.
So like I think the hobby at least has really interpreted these as like a really sort of failed attempt to call back to Zombie Strike, of course. Yeah. And Zombie Strike sort of represented that era, not even just Zombie Strike, but Rebel and Doomlands to some degree, just like this attempt that this era that they had of really creative design. And I mentioned that, and the current sort of failure, it seems, to call back to that in light of the Dart Zone Renegade and Buccaneer.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is really interesting and exciting. I would say that Dart Zone did a bat recently. They did the bat for Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, yep.
And that to me was a much better, like, it had a specific goal, right? Like it's more of a collector's item, but like I think that it was a better approach at like a dart firing bat than the Nerf one. This is something totally different to see them making arguably either pirate or cowboy themed blasters, I guess.
We ran into this issue with the with the script writing. I had literally had a me and Ryan of SFI have like brought up like Victorian into like weird hodgepodge, the movie Wild Wild West with like Will Smith. So I've been like trying to find it. I've been trying to find an excuse to make some kind of reference to it in one of the stories. So I made a Wild Wild West reference in the beginning, but I guess KT also went the pirate route instead. So I guess in the intro we referenced pirates, and then I referenced Wild Wild West and cowboys in my segment about it. So it's just like.
Yeah,
it could go either way.
Kind of I love that you said Wild Wild West, because that's such like a
very like specific.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm sick and I'm watching this movie and it's on, sci-fi or something like that. It's like you can kind of put it right where it needs to be.
Because I remember Ryan, every single time he's like, I just need you to show up to an HVZ sometime, whip up with your slab, put on like one of those cheap like Amazon Victorian vests, some jeans and stuff, and just like dress up wild, get some goggles, go Wild Wild West style. Because we had a friend, Spam Man, or Chris, who many older hobbyists might know, who would organize FoamCon. He used to have a steampunk themed squad called Spam Squad, and he was like, that would kind of give a similar kind of energy, but just a little bit more chaotic. Go full send Wild Wild West sometime and at an HVZ.
What the fuck? Like, yeah, absolutely. In the cowboy boots and the
because I have cowboy boots and stuff like that. I could totally do it.
Beautiful. That'd be hilarious. Because then like you could do like the Smith Squad, and it's like Men in Black. Wild Wild West, like I Am Legend, like all of the different Will Smiths and Genie. Right. Someone's dressed up as a genie, like. But yeah, what's the verdict on this thing? Because I'm so fascinated.
I've seen so Chelo got a couple of them, both the pistol and the rifle, both the Renegade and the Buccaneer in hand, and I watched his video, and it was very good, and he actually clearly loved them. He thought they were fantastic because somebody apparently, as far as I'm aware, you can only get them in Australia, correct?
So far, I think.
So right now, the only place
I don't think that's going to permanently be the case.
Yeah, as currently you can only get them in Australia. And
that's the story with the people were asking about the weird packaging, and it's because all of Dart Zone stuff that's sold in Kmart in Australia. They do have a similar deal to the Adventure Force thing here, where Walmart essentially defines the packaging that everything goes
This reminds me of the old Light Command packaging that they used to use, or whatever that blaster they made like in 2016, 2017 was. It's very reminiscent design language on the box, and that they use on all their like Kmart stuff.
This thing looks great. Like I'm just looking at the back of the box and like, this looks perfect.
Chelo got a hold of a couple. He went through them, tried them out. They look good. The pick rail is a bit of a choice on something like weird. That, obviously, but
it's hilarious.
It is
like
funny.
I'm here for it.
I think that once people start getting a hold of them, the amount of printed parts that could go with it, like different cylinders. I think
I'm already seeing stock extension.
He was mentioning a stock extension and some other bits and stuff.
You can't tell me that you wouldn't put like a Proud Papa on top of this thing and run it in an H.
Listen, I'd put a pick rail on a musket any day. Like that's just it.
More
do that.
Doesn't need to make
more tactics.
More tact. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You saw me at Rag, KT. You know, I was running just a single mag and a gecko. I would totally run this thing, like run a dump pouch of darts and then just like line up, just brass barrel it so that way I can get some like better shots. I would so run that because I was kind of like at our blue team for Rag, I was kind of just this mission scout. I would go around and like find objectives, scout things out, plink if I had to, and then I'd run back. That would like perfectly integrate into how I play. I'd love to get one.
From the video I saw, it sounds like they have pretty decent performance. Like they are, I think it was 80s or something like that FPS range, even for their.
And then I think the pistol gets like 70.
Smart AR.
I think that the pistol was getting
That's
higher. From what I remember, if I remember correctly from Chalo's video, the pistol was getting slightly better than the rifle, and that could be barrel drag. He mentioned the same thing. But obviously, no idea what spring mods would do or how high you could possibly get it. But apparently, they were very good and they're very fun. You could hit a human-sized target at 20, 25 feet. I'm sure.
I mean, the Buccaneer's the new hammer shot.
It basically would be. But it, if you brassed it or did something like that, you could possibly squeeze a little bit more out of it. Yeah. And I think they'd be solid. Of course, Chalo going the route of I want 8 of these, and I want the full, captain with all of the Buccaneers just down his jacket, and that's all he runs with a pirate hat.
And I love that, but you know what this also is? This is the I'm traveling to this HVZ. I'm literally just gonna go buy a Buccaneer.
Yeah. I would. That would be like
straight up. Like
I totally run that.
That's my setup. That's it.
Yeah,
and then I'm gonna give it to a kid at the end of the day, and then I'm gonna leave.
I'd run that in a war.
I could literally just whip out my average day-to-day jeans, like cowboy boots, like a cotton shirt or whatever, and then put on a little tweed vest, and then get 2 Buccaneers to dual wield in a dump pouch from Scared or something like that, and I'd be good to go.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking. I talked a little earlier off recording about a brace of pistols, and that would be the one where it's like running down the center of your chest and you're just pulling the pistols off the bandolier and tossing them aside when they're empty.
No, it's fantastic. I love them. I think they're great fun. I really, really hope we get them in the States very soon. I
feel like we must. Like they're not going to just not distribute.
It would be crazy for them not to, because I think that a lot of people are going to want. I mean,
considering how much people like those like Busby flintlocks that are prone to breaking, that are like at Cracker Barrels everywhere around the United States, and they buy those despite the fact that you can't really mod them very much, and they break. Like to have one that is like actually pretty usable and has a rotating 4-shot cylinder and is like actually pretty good performance, like people are gonna go nuts for it.
Oh yeah.
So why? Here's my question: why can Dart Zone do this now and Nerf can't?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, I think it's just part of Hasbro as a whole. Zooming out from Nerf, very large, very very big business. They're relying on steady money makers, and we've kind of seen that might not be happening so much. Whereas Dart Zone, these other kind of smaller brands, companies, they're just willing to do it, and I think especially with like the hobby,
I feel that Nerf or Hasbro is going to stick closer to tie-ins or licensed because it's safe. They, I believe that's why Nerf would do that. It's very hard because remember, Zombie Strike was a really big part during The Walking Dead. Yeah. So they're trying to kind of jump onto that at the time frame. But I think now they're obviously, with how there's a lot of changes and stuff kind of going through that, they're going to try very hard to stick more with tie-in type stuff. With Dart Zone, I think that the main company has a bit more of an understanding or a tie with the Asian market, which sometimes has just really interesting stuff. Like the stuff that comes out of China is really interesting. It's sometimes it's just cool for the sake of cool. I mean, there was the I know Out of Darts is going to be getting them, but the weird like lever action sword thing that
I want like 2 of those right now. Yeah,
right. Like $100,
but like at the same time, they're willing to just do really just cool stuff, and I think Dart Zone has a little bit closer tie-in with with that type of a market than obviously Hasbro does. Hasbro is going to be very much more Western focused, going to be much more tie-in focused, going to be much more on that. And like I said, they're going to stick more to what's safe as opposed to, because obviously we saw Fortnite, Minecraft, and, Transformers
Dark
or
Zone
whatever.
is in the weird situation of being more of a multinational corporation in a lot of ways than Hasbro.
Kind of like X-Shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I see your tack.
Yeah,
The tack to this day is like, I don't really care much for most of the Fortnite crossover, but some of those early blasters, in particular the tack, are still one of the ones I will grab if I have to show up to a stock war. If someone tells me, hey, there are going to be kids, bring something that hits 70 FPS, I'll bring out the tack because it makes you... The kids think it's
funny.
like intimidating, it's funny, and it like has 4 shots, and it like is fun to pump and then like fire with, and I can hold some in the stock with it.
I have a double breach and mega double breach, which people are always like, boo, double breach, like get a Magnus. It's so much fun. It's you wanna pump action little like shotgun-esque thing.
I did a mod to one where you can get it so that it closes or it opens the door.
Yes, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah. You just put
I'll have to look that
it's
up.
like the easiest thing in the world. There's a spot you put a little extra screw in it with like heat shrink around it.
Yeah.
And it pushes the door open.
Man, I love that thing. Like it's so much fun. I can tell
you for sure, back when Dart Wars, this is an old company. If anyone remembers that company's name when they were still around, one of my friends who was in our old Nerf group back when it was just a bunch of buddies hanging out in the neighborhood, that was his favorite thing aside from like a Titan shooting mega darts to take over there stock blaster wise, because it's super thin, so he could maneuver around all the cardboard cover that was like CQB, and then he could be a little rat, and he could hide in the stuff, and then he could pop out and then like shoot someone with it real quick, and then like dive, reload, and then just go around. He just has this thing going on. I'm kind of sad that era of Nerf is over, because it sounds weird to say you grew up with that stuff, but like realistically, my middle school, what I remember every single time they had one of those lines, the cohesion and I guess cool factor for someone who was in middle school was always there. So like, for example, Mega, everyone who was super into Call of Duty loved the Centurion because they wanted to live the sniper fantasy, while they're like 360 no scope or X, Y, or Z. End Strike also fit that kind of criteria. Zombie Strike came out and everyone was all over it because of all the zombie craze. And then we had like Doomlands and like Alien Menace. I remember because of Alien Menace and Zombie Strikes existing at the exact same time, it led to my local neighborhood group creating a Cowboys versus Aliens game type, essentially.
Sick.
So
that sounds awesome.
so you had like the team commander was only allowed to have pistols. So I think the commander could only use, like, for example, the squeeze to pull and fire, like Alien Menace blaster, or like I think it was either a hammer shot or a double strike. Yeah, Voidcaster, and then like either a double strike or a hammer shot. Meanwhile, your like infantrymen had sling fires on one side and incisors on the other. And then you were allocated a certain number of magazines. And then it was just like you'd set up and it was like a game of VIP essentially.
That's cool.
And so we'd run Cowboys versus Aliens. I just remember how those lines would define how we'd play as a kid, or rather in middle school, and like how much we loved that stuff, and everything was just so on point. So to see it now, there's a couple things here and there that I'm interested in, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, and you think a lot about like what it is that's coming and what it is that you're excited for. It's like I remember, the Storm Charge. Like we were all looking for strifes, and then the Storm Charge came. We're like, oh cool, like this is a strife that is on shelves, or like, oh man, the Rival Saturn was very big for a period of time in my collegiate sphere, because that was 100 FPS, like easy to pick up and like super cool, because it's like, hey, you want this huge looking, shotgun-esque thing. And now I finally like got one. I'm like, okay, this is like neat, but it's no, like, I had to go hunt for that double breach, and I saw it and all the reviews that were clowning on it, and I'm like, I want this thing. Like, there's just some pull. And Grimz, you talk about your childhood like wars. When you were even younger. My neighbor like my next door neighbor across the street had all these Nerf blasters. Never knew why, but his stepdad worked at Toys R Us. They got like crazy discounts, so he would outfit the whole group of like 8 or 9 people with just like, you know, Vulcan and full Titan setups and like all of this stuff that was like new. Whenever something was new, they were always like getting it. It was so cool because for that time period to like get to play with, you know, mag strikes and like things that were relatively new, like for the first time, was crazy. And we broke a ton of Titan launchers.
We can get flooded with all these options, and things start to become a little less special, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's true. And I think like we kind of talk from this hobby position where it's like, what are we looking for versus like what is a kid looking for? Like kid, I've run these wars for kids, and like they're excited if they see something that has 4 AA's in it. Or 6 AA's in it. Like they're like, oh, that's electronic. Like they don't, you know, they're just excited.
Yeah. I think I've tried to make that point a couple times when people have like made debates about Ultra, and I say what I saw at like Nerf arenas, for example, with like Ultra, how kids liked it, for example, or they liked certain lines, why they were still on shelves and still sold. It doesn't matter to the kid. What's matters to them is what their imagination is seeing. Like, to take you back a little bit even further, when I was first getting into Nerf, I remember my buddy, I didn't know what a retaliator was, but he would line us all up, and we had a friend who had a couple acres of land with like foxholes everywhere, and every 4th of July, he'd line everyone up with retaliators. We weren't allowed to have magazines in them. We'd have to prime them, and we'd take arrows that had the tips removed, put a dart in, and then ramrod it in, and have like Revolutionary War style. We'd have Revolutionary War style line battles. Someone would be setting off Roman candles basically as artillery shots in the background on the 4th of July. And so we'd be running through the trenches essentially, like ramrodding darts into our blasters, getting ready to like fire on acres of land. We always came back with like 10 ticks or whatever on us, but it was so cool as kids back then. Because you have like 15 kids out in a field with like actual trenches and whatnot, and you're like ramrod, like loading darts and like panic firing, and like as the commander's ordering you to charge, and your one of your buddies and the parents are like running off fireworks that are going off on the field. It was fun. It was fun.
That sounds awesome.
Okay, well, so I do want to talk about some stuff that I think does give all of us hobbyists that little kind of new tingle feeling that we might miss so much, which is weird new gizmos that the hobby's been coming up with, and new mechanisms and things that we haven't seen quite so much. I'm going to go ahead and share this thing. So Jerry's Random Stuff has come up with there have been a number of attempts at double stack magazines over the years. And people have gotten them to like work, but they've never like really caught on. But this one actually uses 2 half darts back to back, and each stack, Vile covered this, so correct me if I'm wrong here. Each stack has its own follower.
Yes.
And the pusher pushes one stack for a while, and when it runs out, it has a way of automatically knowing to switch.
Yeah, it'll switch to the second stack. Yeah, so what's funny is you see a lot of, especially younger hobbyists will take a Nerf mag and then they'll just put 2 half darts in it and they just run it down the single follower. Right. It's sort of that. But yeah, you can, if you watch the video, you'll see one follower goes up and then the other one starts following afterwards. And it has to have it requires a modified pusher, and it only currently, he broke it, I think, in that video. But
he broke
it requires a special follower. Currently, he only has one made for the Griffin.
Yeah,
which obviously it requires a full dart or longer magwell, obviously, for it to work. So you'd hopefully, and I'm looking at it like this is actually kind of cool because a double stack mag, doesn't really work too well. Worker had the Dominator or whatever mag, which didn't really work. It had a lot of trouble feeding, and this one looks to feed quite well. And I looked through some of the comments on the printables page. Somebody was having some issues that he was going to look into, but he's going to try to replicate it. He personally never had any issues like that, so it could be print tolerances or something like that. But what I liked about it was It's about the size of an 18 round stick that you would have from like a rapid strike in that configuration. And it holds 33 darts. And that's incredible when you think about how small, like an 18 round stick, you got 33 rounds in that. Because when you look at a Tachi mag and just how absurdly long it is, or you look at even like, say, the Mythic Drum, which was, 50 plus rounds from Ezekiel, and that has, a whole loading sequence. There's some other 50 round or, larger round drums out there that are supposed to be a little bit easier. But again, there's just so much. And this one is just a standard stick bag with a high capacity in it for half darts, especially.
It's immediately compatible with so many blasters.
Exactly. It starts
without
to
any
become
modification.
Yeah. And the simplest modification you would need is just a little bod to the pusher primarily.
Right.
We'd have to research it. I'd have to go a little bit further into it because I didn't find anything in his description or anything else that said you'd have to modify a blaster any further. But from the initial videos, from his write-ups, from the things I'm seeing, it doesn't look to be too difficult to get another blaster to run it. And the fact that we have the Hawkeye like half dart kit for the Strife, and you have to cut the Strife and recombine it, and you got to use all this stuff. If you could just get a Strife that has a different pusher on it, now you just run 33 rounds on a half dart in nothing more than a regular mag that was for 18 rounders. And so many people used to run like rapid strikes with like, a chest rig that had like 15 of these stick mags in it or something. Like, if you were to even run 5 of those, you're looking at over 150 plus rounds. And that's crazy.
Yeah, because I remember Bobo's favorite thing used to do, he'd go to a military surplus store, he'd get some stuff, do some minor modifications, and then he'd specifically request the Busby 20-round magazines for full-length darts, and I'm still using them.
The yellow ones.
Yeah, the yellow ones.
I have one.
And now that I'm looking at this, because I didn't look at this one too closely at first, because I was like, oh, another attempt at like one of those. I wonder, hopefully it turns out good. I'll see it in the actual news episode. Now that I'm seeing the footage of it, I'm like, oh gosh dang it. You're going to make me resuscitate my Frankenstrife, like my first ever Strife, and pull. I'm gonna have to whip out my my 2x4 like drop leg Boff Tack like bungee cord 18 round mag holder thing that holds full length mags.
I can't imagine that we're not going to see pushers for the Strife in particular.
Whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
Strife, and then a couple other whatever else has it.
This poor Strife that I have that's going to be the test bed if and when I can ever get my hands on some of these mags has been through enough already, but I'm going to have to resurrect it again. To preface, it has like a soldering iron got dropped on it at one point, so it has a burn mark on it. At some point, because it was my friend tried cutting out the stuff to make it fit a lipo, and it was too jagged, so he's like, all right, we'll put some like electrical tape over it, and accidentally put flex tape.
Oh my god.
And so there's so it has flex tape on the inside, so there's nothing jagged, so it's perfectly fine, but it's like flex tape lined, but the flex tape has gone a little weird and goopy in certain spots. And then the inside of it's running an Aurora cage with thing revamped or whatever, but like the soldering on it, because my friend did it, is like died like 2 years ago. I've been meaning to like do a cage swap. It was going to be a Heston Systems cage, but then I swapped over to half darts. It has like a signed like foregrip that I got at End War 2022 that Grimz signed on because I signed one of his blasters. And then it also has a one of Containment Crew's only remaining Strife metal CNC battery doors, but it also has laser engraved on it, End War 2022, and then something from Taffy. I can't remember what it says. I just remember it was something Mimi is like laser engraved on the battery door on the underside. I need to remember what it was now. But
so what? Taffy signed my kid's skewer. He misspelled his own name.
So what you need to do with this, Grimz, before you take it and like fix it and do whatever with it, is you need to like give us a video tour of the blaster. like
Oh,
a house.
yeah.
tool.
It is like
Yeah.
gutted right now on a workbench and like
Yeah,
covered
that's
in
what we
dust.
need. We need parts breakdown and then the whole thing put back together again.
See,
Like,
the
that would
the
be
funniest part is
surreal.
like I have some dyed bulldogs that are dyed in red that were intended to go back in it when the V2. So like I should probably put those to use at some point. Anyway, so it like
but
gives
yeah,
me a good excuse.
This is very much the kind of product that I think brings the design that brings a lot of old blasters back out of storage.
Yeah,
And I think that's
absolutely.
really exciting.
Yeah, like that's my first thing. I'm like, oh my god, there's so many old like full length blasters I need to revive now to like try this out with.
It would also modify
gear I
a
have.
chest rig like this that has all the people that would run these at HVZs and stuff. It just had all the 18-round sticks just hanging off their chests. Like,
To my
That's the worst. They're so like you think they're really nice and like ergonomic, and then you're running around with 18-round sticks. You're like, this sucks. This sucks.
this is nine sticks, and it would only take 5, and I would actually have more capacity with the other one.
Right.
Only slightly, but yeah, it would only take 5 to do the same as this. So
No, there's your kite.
oh yeah,
next-
kite.
Next thing
Oh,
up,
talking about the kite.
So like I'm calling it a 3-stage trigger. That's my term for it.
I see it.
This kind of situation where you have the inside trigger as the rev trigger, and then you have a dual stage trigger to either semi or just hold it down for full auto, which is so clever.
that's interesting.
So clever. And then this great animated GIF that shows the sequence and the like catch sensor mechanism, where when the dart leaves, the thing returns, and that tells the solenoid. See, like there's a lever that drops down once the dart is gone. That turns off a switch, so the solenoid deactivates. So it tightens up the timing, because as soon as the dart is gone, the solenoid starts to reset.
Off. Yeah.
So clever.
Well, I like below it. It says it has a folding stock.
Yeah.
That's my jam. I love
It's
a good
spring
folding
assisted
stock.
And it's a spring
folding stock.
assisted.
Oh, look at that!
So it holds itself open or closed.
Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
Gosh,
This is a designer who's really thinking about all the details.
absolutely.
Yeah.
See, we're talking about bigger mags, but what about smaller mags? Old project I just built. I built a handful of Spamfer mags, which are like 6-round Spamf mags.
Mm-hmm.
They're so cool.
I know.
I was like, I'm gonna buy a bunch of 5-round Talons. I'm just gonna build these instead. Like they're so
especially for sidearms, especially for something that just
Well, the
tucks all
whole-
the way into the blaster.
yeah, and like the whole feeling about like having that, having a magazine that like suits something so well. I mean, that's like I've gotten into. We talked about the Satakili, we talked about the stringers, and that's really kind of my lane right now. But like having things that take those Nightingale mags and like just the versatility when one company puts out something. And I bought a Nightingale at launch for NWAR 2022. It was that perfect time. I picked it up like a week before, it got to my door. I was like, oh, great. I have this proprietary mag system that nobody's ever going to do anything with. And so to see that like it picked up and now it's like, okay, this is a viable thing to have and to use. Like everything is wonderful and viable, and it's so exciting. Like you really do. For me, I feel like I can play the way I want to play, and like there's somebody out there who has something for that.
Oh, there's normal stock too.
It's been really cool seeing them work on their like blasters over the years and how their design language has evolved, because I remember beforehand, I don't think they list it on the site anymore. I think this was them. It was like some kind of like P90 adjacent blaster that they had done some work on that had like a Drac did a video on it at one point. It's like old work of theirs. They went by a different handle at the time. But it had like
That's snappy.
a unique mechanism. Then they did their first Hummingbird, which is also not listed on the site anymore because that was under their old name. Then came out the Kestrel, then the Hummingbird V2, now this. It's been cool seeing their design language and their way of approaching things, and as as their designs have gotten more advanced, they've also gotten less complicated. Like, for example, I have a Kestrel I haven't built yet still because it was just like I never got around to it. I still have the Narfduino or whatever sitting around for it that it needed that now none of his builds would require, and I'm just like, oh yeah, those were a thing for a minute.
Yeah.
Now we use like car blinker relays and stuff.
And always
times change.
That kind of iteration fascinates me. Like, I'm working on this now, so you like a lot of flywheeler people have their flywheelers, and like that's beautiful, and solenoids and all that stuff. Like, I can't make heads or tails out of it, but what I do love is a good shell ejecting shotgun. I have a Spring Thunder. Guess what doesn't work?
The shell ejector.
Nothing. The plunger head's always breaking. Like, all of these, I joke we've built the kind of like Sisyphus's, like the ship of Spring Thunder, where it's like we have 10 different internal combinations in this thing, and to now see like the Colonel Wasp, the Firefly, and like things, and also the Silly Butts design, which those designs, which I'm waiting with bated breath to see how that tube fed one turns out. Like,
that is my like top thing right now.
I'm waiting.
Preacher.
I'm waiting on it because that is this thing that was so complicated before. It seems to have been realized now, and no doubt someone down the line is going to come and say, why were you doing that? Let's try this instead. And like just the growth is so exciting to see. And like all of these people fanning out into all of these different areas in the hobby. They're really, if you're in the hobby, there really is something for you out there.
Still waiting on what was that shell blaster? The one that was going to replace.
Oh, the Sobek.
Sobek, yeah, that's it. I know. It's just like it's my copium thing is Sobek. I just remember when that was like all the rage. Everyone was talking about it.
At least it's not the Shelby Destroyer.
Done waiting for the
Sobek. Oh, true.
We're not
that's your third. That's your third.
We're not talking about
reference.
I also tracked.
We are talking about Domochevsky's second Micro 2.0 Reshell.
Of course we are.
Yeah,
I would say go down. Yeah, that. I think that has the inline a little bit later in the video, but you can see how he just pulls the trigger and it auto primes and fires.
Yes.
Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah, look. Yeah. See how it just pulls that whole thing back and then fires?
Yeah.
And now, so I think he has the inline clip variant.
It's in a different.
Yeah.
Why is it in a different Domo?
I'm not sure.
What the heck?
Yeah,
I don't know
what
if
are
I
you
can.
doing?
Hold on.
Come on, man. Why are we hiding the cool stuff?
I love the top banner that says placeholder squad go.
It's great. This site is just great. Like, I love it. I'll check it. Because like Bungie Max is perfect because like all of these events with like the cool green gas blasters were like, yeah, I want to build the Doom Eternal green gas blaster that Dr. Flux was showing off. It's like but I can't use green gas at my venue. Here's this design that fills that spot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Like, there's a lot of options for you. There you go. So yeah, this was what got me, because an inline clip variant that does not require you to seat the dart. That is the coolest part to me. And he just loads up the 3, and then you'll just watch him just rack them off. 1, 2, 3.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do the flick.
Nope.
There's no flick.
And all of them
so
just
good.
went perfect. And this was apparently Corvus was the one who helped him with that, like whatever he did with the barrel or the front shape of the inline, whatever he did. Yeah, he's explaining it like in his video, like you don't have to do this. You can just fire it off.
See, the wild thing is my old hobby instinct is going to tell me that I still need to flick it, even if I don't, because it's just like you had your old rainbow pumps. I didn't have one personally, but I know like even Rob, for example, he'd have his like what do you call it, Erdl pump action shotgun or whatever, and you'd like pump it and then you'd like load it into the hopper, like you'd go down all in one motion and then swing back up.
Yep.
But I do that with my inline clip Fate. So the fact that you don't have to do that is super cool, though.
I have a friend who still builds stuff like that. We have this Adventure Force Liberator that he like it's like PVC nightmare. You know, it's coming out of the barrel. I have to find the picture of it. It's coming
Does he
out
have
of the
magic
barrel.
Ask him if he has magic CPVZ. He'll understand what it means.
I'll ask him, but I know it comes. It's ridiculous because it like the PVC comes out of the barrel, goes up, and then the inline is pointing like out this way. So it's like it's up and out.
So it's almost like an RSCB, kind of how it was.
Yeah,
designed.
it's very similar because that's the stuff that he's like. He's our resident like.
That's how I was. That's how I was building my my crossbow.
Yeah,
the Kenner crossbow. Yeah. I put an XBZ an XBZ in it, and I then just 90 degreed it up, and then right on the top where the arrows go, I ran that for the inline, and then on the back, right where the part actually raises up for where on the shell, I cut it open and I put one of those ball valves on it, so you could just open it, load it up through the back, close it, and then you use the original pump to actually pump it up as well. So like what?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm completely distracted here though because what is going on with Domo's floor? Why is it sand?
Oh yeah, part of his floor is sand. Part of it is like this American flag mat.
The other thing
there's another section with like yoga mat.
There's also
on the bottom left
wheel here. There's a wheelchair wheel down here in the corner.
Can we get him on the show to explain his floor?
Well, Domo's been on the show.
Yeah, can we get him back?
I don't think he had the same floor at the time.
So like,
it's changed
I gotta know because like I know people have joked that he's like mad scientist, but like this plus combined with the inline clip that you don't have to flick down that he's worked on with Thor is just like, all right, okay. Domo, you're just like trying to one up yourself with the mad scientist title now. At this point, you're just showing off.
I can see like a hypothetical, like it would be cool to have like a clean sandy floor. I don't know why is it like comes up to the, I guess you could put your feet.
There's also just like a random like wooden panel in the middle.
Yeah, what?
I guess it's in case you want to get across.
Yeah, but
if you look real quick, his PC is in the sand.
Right.
And it's a
his stand is in the sand.
I'm so confused. I don't. Domo, explain yourself.
I'm really kind of focused on this. Like, it looks like it's been cut into the floor in the left. On the bottom left, where he seems like he has this yoga mat that's been like
it looks
inlaid into the floor. Like it's like why you kind of section out for your yoga mat, and there's another section of red flooring.
Floor, and there you can see like there's like a blaster down here.
Yeah.
My brain is just like buffering.
Maybe so many questions.
Old Netscape like image loading buffering. Like
maybe Domo lives in an old barn and he's trying to renovate it, and that's where he has to live. And the reason he's making all these cool contraptions is for people to buy it so he can finish building his floor in his renovated barn. Look, all I'm saying is maybe you should support Domo and help him with his project. I don't know what the project is.
Get his floor
out of his house.
That's so funny.
Well,
that's so funny. Yeah, I do want to talk about the quick like jank modding though, because there was right before the Pathfinder came out, we were like, man, we need a rival blaster that takes magazines and is a front grip. So like, okay, Nate, what do you got? Comes back into his he's in a dorm room at the time, of course. So like he's goes into his dorm room, grabs an Apollo, grabs another piece of Adventure Force something or other, Retaliator stock or Recon stock. And
only good things can come out of this story. I'm already getting from this.
So what happens is that we get this blaster that is the front part of the Apollo linked up with the trigger system of this unnamed Adventure Force blaster, finished off with the Recon stock epoxied on, and all of it is painted this like sand light blue, but it wasn't varnished or anything, so it's just like this flat looking blaster.
Okay.
And this is like weeks before we saw the first images of the Pathfinder, so we're like, dude, you just built the Pathfinder from home. So I have this photo of this thing. It's like boxy. It's so weird. It's
Timu
so
Pathfinder.
Funny. Yeah, and it's still an Apollo, so you still rack it from the top.
Oh, I hated the prime on those things.
Yeah. I'll post a photo of it at some point.
I also tracked down the blaster I was talking about. He used to go by, and I'm trying to pronounce this right, but it's ANSUZALGIZ is what he used to go by. I can't pronounce that, but it's this SABR P90 was the thing he had built first, and then came the Hummingbird.
Yeah. I've heard about that.
I can't. I still to this day cannot pronounce the name, which is why I assume he rebranded it to what it is now.
Yeah, much better name. Also, I think that's the guy that we gave those trivia free questions to for the next guest. So.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
They're all long enough acronym.
Yeah, exactly. They're all the same at that point.
Mm-hmm.
SZBB, etc. So to close it off tonight, I would like to go around the circle here, around the table. I realize that it is now halfway through February. Everybody did their resolutions and stuff for the new year in January. Too bad. We were on break. This is our chance to do it.
Resolutions.
I would love to get from everybody a hope for the new year, one for yourself and one for the hobby. The one for yourself can be hobby related or not. Whatever you're feeling, whatever your, I say hopes, maybe they're more like goals. It's up to you.
Okay. You want me to start?
You can start.
Oh, okay, cool. I was like,
if you feel ready, if you feel prepared.
Yeah. So I think the really easy one for the hobby is I just want to see kind of more different voices and more diversity. I think we're already a very diverse hobby. I think that's amazing. That's so special to me that we have so many people who feel comfortable to be themselves, and I just want I want that to continue. I don't want that to backslide. I see a lot of people that look like me and act like me, and that's great. I'm glad that we're all together, but we also have to make sure that everybody feels like they have a place.
Yeah.
For me personally, also hobby related, I need to find a better way to run the water cart, and I need a group of people to help me do it.
Cool. Grim, you look like you're thinking.
I pressed the wrong button. Yeah, I forget that it's hooked up to my keyboard.
It was appropriate.
It was appropriate. I was thinking though. So as far as hobby goals go, 1, more guest hosts. 2, personal note, maybe try and see if it's possible that I can get to an event of some kind. I'm not sure how viable that's going to be this year. It seems the recurring theme is I can get to one every 2 years or so, seems to be the recurring thing, but maybe I'll be able to get to one this year. Aside from that, non-personal ones but more F&C related ones is get F&C out of the red ? And maybe pass 4,000 subs.
We'll keep working on it.
Those two are we'll work on it later.
Yeah.
We'll work on it. We're working on that.
There, I think.
We're headed there. But yeah, aside from that, actually get around to doing the D&D stuff I've been putting off for ever in my personal time. So aside from that,
that's the worst.
Those are my goals. Vile?
So personal, I really need to get a lot of stuff organized and built. I have a lot of wood or lumber that I picked up. I'm in the process of doing it, but I need to get that done because getting that done, one of those things is a paint booth. I'm actually in the process of building a paint booth so I can paint all year round so I can finish my integrations, because most of them stop at the point of doing filling and body work where they need to be now sanded and at least primered. And I can't do that because of where I live. It's usually too windy, dusty, snowing, whatever. It's always something, it feels like. So that's my personal thing. Hobby-wise, I think for me, it's because of the current climate, what I'm really hoping for the hobby is that we don't see this year at least, or at least in the coming years, we don't see an unfortunate fall off from things like the Mothership. We've already seen a very reduced shelf space for Nerf as it is. Dart Zone's trying to do quite a lot. X-Shot seems to be doing quite a lot, so they seem to be taking up a little bit of that, which is good to see. But a reduction in blasters that are on the shelf does start to reduce potentially new people joining. And to me, that's a bad sign no matter how you look at it. And whether it's through, again, the current climate of how things are going, or if it's, Hasbro trying to shift where they want to put their stuff, because again, they've been kind of the heavy hitter for so long. Whatever it is, my only hope is that it doesn't start to negatively affect us. Like, again, where we don't have newer people coming in, or we don't have interesting things that are showing up on the shelves. We were talking about the Dart Zone stuff, because like that is what to me is like the core stuff that I personally enjoy. I love seeing the new, interesting, weird, goofy stuff. And if we sort of get into a cookie cutter thing of it starts to turn into the same thing where how many in-strike 70 FPS blasters can you review to, okay, how many pro level 150 Springer primaries can you review?
Yeah.
Pump action Springer.
Right. Pump action Springer or whatever, right? How many can you review that are to where it becomes boring? And it's like we that excitement is kind of switched, and now it's kind of turning into the same thing. So I just hope that doesn't force the hobby to stagnate. That's my kind of hope or want, is that it doesn't start to do that. I would like to see more things like the Buccaneer and the Renegade and just really fascinating stuff. Even if it is coming from China or from, Worker or whoever, I don't care. As long as that is still going and it's getting people excited or interested, to sort of keep that fire burning. So that would be mine.
That's good.
I think that's a really good one. Yeah,
that's a really good one. I mean, it's a real danger right now with trade issues going on and like attempts to. It's like the hobby is increasingly international at a time when
very much so
being increasingly international is being made more difficult actively.
Yeah.
So, even just to have the major company, that's really big.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I have a lot of personal hopes for the year, but one that is related to the hobby is we've been working for a while on changing the way that we edit the show, and I am doing so much more theater and other work right now, which is really good and just really needed at my household. And I hope that we can find a way that is creatively amplifying to shift the way that we distribute the show editing work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for the potential of that, not just as a way to like change the workload or whatever. Like, I'm really excited about the future possibilities of how we can do the show more collaboratively. And for the hobby, I kind of want to build off of what you said, John, where I hope that the hobby can be a comforting, safer space for even more people. That it can be a place that people can find community and activity and comfort and safety. And a big part of that is making sure that a variety of voices are being heard all the time. And I think that is super, super important always. Especially right now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, here's to another year of foam flinging. Here's to fundraising success.
Thank you.
Really excited for Sub-Zero this year. Be keeping an eye on that. There is a cat trapped in my garage and meowing. I don't think you can hear that, but I'm going to have to address that in a moment. Where can folks find you and or more likely Sub-Zero, information about Sub-Zero and Midsummer?
Yeah. Yep. So, information on that stuff is living life on Facebook, man. I mean, you wanna Sub-Zero has an event there If you know the channels, we'll toss in. The chatter up is in the description if you want to put in monetarily, if you're able to support. If you just want to boost the message or come join the positivity and join some of the fun and put in some of that What's Up Pussycat in the playlist. Discord is also there, but we're around. We're really trying to infiltrate, and at some point, infiltrate. At some point, we're gonna really kind of solidify a presence. Yeah, Facebook, Discord. I mean, we try to swing as wide as we can, and then hopefully we'll get some really cool coverage out of the event again this year. Boomstick Mods did an awesome video last year from our event, and it's kind of surreal, seeing us on camera and getting that feeling. But the buzz is there. I mean, there's so many amazing people, and just because you missed it this year doesn't mean that you're gonna miss it next year. Just keep an eye out and make sure to get your snow pants early.
Yep. Love that. Vile, streaming?
I'll be streaming on Twitch Fridays and Saturdays.
As always.
As usual. 12 to 8 West Coast time.
Yep. So links to all those things, of course, down in the description. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Every much.
Starting off season 3 with a bang.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. We will see y'all in 2 weeks with another episode. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.